unchainedpri today, and welcome to it's more like a review slash thoughts type of video. I usually don't do these that often. Ignore the mic. The mic is nowhere helping me. It's just kind of in my way, so it's just there. But anyway, as you guys know, I did play Deltarune Chapter 5 yesterday when it dropped. I don't know if y'all watched the stream or you watched the stream after the fact, or if you actually, again, if you sat through that 5 hours and 3 hour video, in total 8 hours, I commend you for actually sitting and watching it if you did, because, yeah, no, that shit was long, and especially since, again, during a certain part, which, I was dying a lot, but we're gonna get to that. Anyway, but I've been seeing a lot of discourse about the chapter on Twitter, so I wanted to, bring my thoughts on it. Now, obviously, my thoughts and opinions are my own, it's whatever. Everyone's gonna have different thoughts about it, although I have been seeing, the major thing is that everyone's saying that they don't like this chapter, that they're saying that they think this chapter didn't progress story-wise, which I agree, and I'm 50-50 on it. I agree, but I also disagree. Now, we're going to be getting into spoiler territory here, so from here on out. So if you haven't watched it or you want to play it yourself and you haven't gotten to it yet, highly recommend clicking off now, because we're going to be getting deep into spoilers right now. Alright? Everybody gone? Alrighty. So, on the story-wise part, I feel like a lot of things happened and a lot of things didn't happen. We got progression with Susie and Noelle, because we go into the festival together, and there's that scene at the lake where they pretty much confess their feelings for each other. They're like, oh yeah, I really like you, and she's like, I like you the way you like me, however you meant it, which is obviously, romantically. That whole thing happens, and it's so cute and shit. And I was actually very surprised during that scene, because the entire time, even during the stream, I was sitting there something's gonna happen, something's gonna, they're not gonna confess, they're gonna get close to confessing the feelings, but it's not gonna happen. Now, it did end up happening, which I was very shocked, because I didn't think we were gonna get this far. I thought that something was gonna happen, something with Noelle's mom or her dad or something, and then it was gonna, pretty much ruin the moment type shit, you know what I mean? But yeah. But I was very surprised that took me off guard, because usually in these types of stories or scenarios, it's they're about to kiss, or the feelings are gonna come out, but then something happens to stop the moment. But again, I am surprised that we did, they followed through. My man Toby said, ain't no, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but cliches, I guess? There's another word for it, I just can't think of it at the moment. But yeah, so that was a progression story-wise that I really liked, and I had been wanting to see since chapter 2, so, that's great. All us, Suzelle fans got fed this chapter. Another thing, I'm trying to think what else. Obviously, the festival happened, which they had been talking about last chapter. I don't know if they mentioned it in chapter 3. I don't remember, because, it's also been a hot minute since I played chapter 3 and 4. Because, granted, when chapter 3 and 4 came out, I didn't play them immediately when it came out. I think I waited a few months, because that was when you had to buy the game after the fact, and I was like, financials and schmiz. So granted, the game is it comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 was a free update, which, again, Toby, I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate. He didn't have to make it free. Again, chapter 1 and 2 were both free to play. And then he made 3 and 4 that you had to pay for. But it has all 4 chapters together. So $24.99 for 4 chapters. And now chapter 5, which was a free update. And again, my man's Toby didn't have to do that. He could have been money hungry and been like, alright guys, $10 for chapter 5. My man Toby. And I think the original Undertale is $10, 20, I believe. I don't remember, because again, it's been years since I've played Undertale, and I played Undertale on my laptop, bro. was so long ago. I was still in high school when that shit came out. But yeah, anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. Yeah, festival happened. What else happened? Obviously, like, because the way chapter 4 ended, Chris takes, because it happens at the end of every damn chapter, except for 5, surprisingly, where Chris takes out the soul and, like, puts it somewhere, and then he goes to wreak havoc or do some shenanigans or whatever. But surprisingly, that this was a different, like, the ending of chapter 5 was still like a, oh my god, like, what the flip type of schmiz, but it did end a little differently. Instead of Chris taking out the soul, you just see him walk away, like, back home. So that's very interesting to see how, especially to see how chapter 6 is gonna start out. But yeah. But yeah, so that's a little different, you know, a different kind of ish ending. I mean, granted, each chapter has a different ending, but, you know, the ending's not the same, like how it has been for the past, like, 4 chapters. But yeah, anyway, but yeah, and then again, that there was story progression again with the festival and schmiz. Like, again, we see Susie and Noelle. That was great to see. And again, we're at the festival and schmiz. But then when it comes to going to the dark world, so this time we are in the dark world of, I guess you could say, Asgores, which is like, it was teased obviously in the trailer. This was going to be kind of like a Japanese floral theme, which makes sense with Asgore because, you know, he runs a flower shop. Ha ha ha. But yeah, and then we have like this anime. Bro, it killed me when I saw the scene when they introduced Flowery. Yeah, haha, it's Flowey, but without a but with an R. Hilarious. And obviously it's not exactly like Flowey, but you get my gist. So Flowery is, like, again, a new character that gets introduced, and he's pretty much like super, I wouldn't say into, well, he's, you know, not into Asgore, like, romantically or anything, but, like, it's like, you know, like, God, I'm losing words here. But pretty much, you know, like, he's all up in there, you know, like, pretty much doing whatever he can to, like, make him happy and schmiz, because, you know, yeah. At first, I was, like, obviously confused, because I'm like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, and then another thing too is that, like, during this besides Flowery, which we'll get I've been seeing a lot of things on Twitter too that everyone's like, I can't stand Flowery. And, like, granted, throughout the chapter, I didn't really dislike Flowery. Did I think he was a little annoying? Kinda, but for the most part, he made me laugh. It's during the final fight of the chapter where I disliked him, which we'll get into. We'll get into it. But besides Flowery, there's also the other, I forgot, I know it's 7 in total. I don't know if Flowery counts. I believe he does. But there's, like, the other 6 flowers. There's Seth, which, yeah, he wanted to, basically the flowers are acting like humans because basically these are the flowers, and it's like the 7 colors, like how the 7 souls were in Undertale. I was gonna say Deltarune. I'm like, that's the game we're literally talking about. But yeah, like the 7 flowers are the 7 colors, and they're like how the souls were in Undertale that Asgore killed. Yeah, but if y'all haven't played Undertale, you should get on that or watch a playthrough, because yeah, a lot of like little implications, obviously. You know what, I'm not gonna get into that, but anyway, yeah, there's Seth, who's like kind of like the smart one. There's Blue, or no, it's Aqua, my bad. There is a Blue, but Aqua, who's like kind of like a kitty type of schmiz, but they also like to play with knives. I'll get into that one. There's Blue, who's like philosophical, if I'm using the correct wording. But pretty much they're kind of like a life is like a poem or some shit. I don't fucking know. I can't think of like the exact wording. There's Yellow, who's like a cowboy, which, yeah. What else is there? There's Green, who is a chef, which they don't talk for some reason. There's Orange, who is like tries to be intimidating, but it's actually a small ass fucking mouse, which that was funny, I guess. I'm trying to think. Did I name all of them? Yeah, there's Seth, Aqua, Blue, Yellow, Green, Orange, and then there's Flowery. So there you go. 7. Yeah, and then all of them, then they're acting like humans, and you know, they're really trying to please Asgore, and then we find out too, which again, I don't know why people are saying that this didn't progress story-wise, because we find out in this chapter that Asgore knows about the Dark World. Like, he knows about the Dark Worlds and schmiz, and he knows about the fountains and shit. So he knows about it. Because granted, so far, we have not encountered anybody who actually knows about it. Because in chapter 1, obviously, it's just Chris and Susie. In chapter 2, Noelle and Birdley end up in the Dark World. But obviously, after that chapter, we act like it was all a dream. Like, to them. Like, to them, it's like, oh yeah, a dream or whatever. So they don't, again, from there on, they don't know anything about it. Chapter 3, Undyne shows up. Toriel was also there, but she's like sleeping, so she's not aware of anything that's going on. Undyne is there, but we only see her for like a little bit before she gets taken by the night. In chapter 4, there's no one there. Maybe like there's like this one, like the ashes of an old man who's like dead, and he just so happens to come back to life for this chapter, but just in the Dark World. And yeah, we have had no implications besides maybe Carol, which is Noelle's mom, whom, again, my theory is that maybe she's the knight, but I've also been seeing differentiating theories that maybe Noelle's dad, Rudy, is the knight, because I saw like this post where like, oh, Rudy, not Rudy, but what's the word? The knight doesn't stand during like the boss fight with him, I believe. But I don't remember which chapter. Do we fight him in chapter 3? I don't remember. But yeah, but that was the thing. Like, oh yeah, the knight doesn't stand during the boss fight, and it's like, and Rudy was in the hospital till recently. But yeah, but personally, I'm still sticking with my theory that it's Carol, because again, in chapter 4, I think it was chapter 4, where again, she's seeming kind of sus, not gonna lie. But, yeah. But besides Carol, we've had no implications of anyone else knowing about the Dark World. But yeah, so that's also some new development, like, story-wise, too. Because, like, again, yeah, we're finding out that Asgore knows about it. You know? But yeah. What else is there? Story-wise, we see, again, there's also developments too, like with the characters, like Rousey. We see like an annoyed, like angry side of Rousey, which we haven't seen in previous chapters, because he's usually like the nice type of guy, you know. He's like, oh yeah, you know, like we can all just be friends and like everything will be fine, you know, that type of schmiz. Or like be super nice, like, oh yeah, I can bake you guys a cake or make some tea or whatever, you know, like stuff like that. That's all we've seen of Rousey. And in this chapter, we see more to Rousey, which is super cool to see. Like, I love seeing the angry side of Rousey. Like, yeah, man, go ape shit. Understandably so. Because of the way that Flowery been treating ya, yeah, I would want to go ape shit too. And even like at the beginning, like, because when I wouldn't say at the beginning of the chapter, but when we get to the Dark World, like this one, you know, the Asgore one, and when we find Rousey like got stuffed into a closet by Flowery, and even Susie, like after he's like, oh, I can't believe that guy, what's his deal? And Susie's like, yeah, that guy's kind of like a pain in the ass. And then she laughs and she's like, yo man, when did you become a hater? And like Susie picks up on it immediately. So like And then throughout the chapter, anytime Ralsei encounters Flowery, he's usually annoyed and or mad. And there's like that one scene, I think before we go to fight Flowery, where Ralsei is like, don't you think I wish I could be different? Like, I could just like lay low and like feel what I want to feel in schmiz or whatever, you know, like I don't remember the exact wording that he used during the scene, but don't you think I would want to like let loose and, you know, just do what I feel? But I can't do that because of because if I just, then everything will go to shit. Like things will go wrong if I don't do what I need to do, you know, like, and that's again was a very interesting thing of Ralsei to see, because I was like, yeah, Ralsei. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Like, granted, we don't hear the pronunciations of people's names in this schmiz besides Flowery, because he has audio clips in this fucking chapter. But yeah, like, it was nice to see that side of Ralsei in this chapter. That was also another interesting development that I really liked to see, you know? And then, obviously, like, they have been mentioning it, not, like, very vaguely throughout the chapters, but there was something that happened that kind of, like, I wouldn't say changed the town, but certain, like, you notice, like, something happened. Like, you don't know exactly what, but something happened. And Asgore mentions it. And then, like, obviously, like, near the end of the chapter, but Asgore mentions, like, the reason he's trying to find out about the Dark World and basically, like, prove to people that it's real, so that whatever event happened that people think was his fault, or like he thinks it's his fault, but he can prove it to them and prove that it wasn't his fault. And then, yeah, like, after the boss fight with Flowery, Asgore's like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I got carried away thinking that if I was able to prove that this was real, that people wouldn't blame me anymore for that event that happened, for what happened that day. But I was too dumb to realize that no one blamed me for what happened. And because I was so fixated on this, I ended up pushing everyone away, including Toriel, which is his ex-wife, and you, and Asriel, which is his other son. Well, I wouldn't say technically. Well, technically, because, you know, Chris is a not a they them. I'm not saying that in a bad way or nothing. It's just that's how they go. Chris doesn't go by he or she, goes by they. But yeah, I said other son, but you know what I mean, child, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, and again, that's an interesting development. Granted, a lot of people were complaining that, like, oh gosh, we already know that something happened, but he didn't say what happened. Now, granted, there's this character where I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I didn't remember jack shit. And again, Chapter 1 came out God knows how long ago. I don't remember what year it came out, but it came out a long time. And then Chapter 2, I think, came out 2021. And then Chapter 3 and 4 came out last year. This month last year. So yeah, it's been a schminute. And granted, I don't remember every bit of dialogue, obviously. Obviously, I remember the very important story parts, but I don't remember every bit of dialogue. So apparently, again, I didn't realize this till I kept seeing it on Twitter, and I'm like, who the fuck is Des? So apparently, again, didn't realize, didn't know, didn't remember. Noelle has an older sister named Des. Her full name is December. Ha ha. Because, you know, her name is Noelle. Her mom's name is Carol. Her dad's name is Rudy, short for Rudolph. And their last names are Holiday. Hilarious, Toby. But anyway... So, yeah. But yeah, apparently she has an older sister named Des, again, short for December, who is missing. At least, I don't think they say she's missing, but there are very clear implications that she is missing. A lot of people think that she's, like, dead or something, which you know, these games always gotta have somebody dead in them, don't they? But yeah, and then apparently they talk about Des in the past tense. They're like, oh yeah, same thing with Azriel, but we know Azriel's just off at college right now. But with Des, they don't what's the word, confirm her whereabouts. Like, they don't say like, oh, she left, or she's missing, or she's dead. They just talk about her in the past tense. No, but we don't have any clear answer as to where she is, because they don't mention that she's off at college or nothing. Past tense. So everybody's obviously theory is that the bad thing that happened that day, and again, when Asgore talks about it in chapter 5, the screen turns red, which is obviously like, okay, it must be that somebody died or something. And obviously the big theory is that it involves Des, like Des died or something, and you know, blah 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 blah. But then again, we come to find out that whatever like that happened, like on that event that happened that day, was caused by a dark world before, like basically a dark world that before us, like before we started getting into it, like before chapter 1 pretty much. It was caused by a dark world. So like, yeah, that's big story development. I don't see why everyone's like, oh yeah, like we heard about the event, but they didn't tell us what happened in the event. We got some like clues though. Like we got some like, whatever event happened was caused by a dark world, by a fountain. So we did get huge story development. Just we didn't get the whole picture, but we got story development, especially about whatever event Asgore is talking about, you know? And we know that Asgore is involved with whatever event that he's talking about. And again, I still don't get what people are like. Again, I will say, obviously, like, again, it was more of a kind of, I wouldn't say slow-paced, but like, well, kind of, like a slow-paced kind of a chapter. But again, also, when Toby, like in the newsletter about the chapter, like before it came out, he did say, like, oh yeah, chapter 4 was kind of like serious and schmiz, but like, you know, let's just forget about that and let's have like a chill, like one last happy adventure. And that's what Toby said in his newsletter. Like, go look it up. Like, he says that in the newsletter, like before the chapter came out. And yeah, because I'm pretty sure like he's like, let's have like one last nice funny adventure before everything goes to shit in chapter 6 and 7, which 6 7 let me stop. But yeah, and again, that was made clear before the chapter came out. And again, a lot of people were like,
well, like, we didn't get any like huge story details or like development or whatever.
And I again, agree to disagree, but I personally don't see an issue with like the story of the chapter. Like, I think again, we got a lot of things revealed to us. We got a lot of development. I personally don't see how people are saying that there wasn't a lot. Like, there is one thing though. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but I saw this one thing on Twitter which I did agree with, where in the last chapter we find out that, again, obviously, like the prophecy, and we get to see different things about the prophecy. Like, one of them is being that, like, oh, Susie, which is like the girl, I guess, like because they say the girl because Susie's technically the only girl of the group. That, oh, she will like find love or whatever, and Susie's like, whoa, who do you think it would me? Like, really? Like, whatever. But then there's this one final, I wouldn't say, well, maybe it's final. This one final part of the prophecy that Rousey doesn't want us to see. And obviously that probably means it's something really bad. So Rousey tries to prevent us from seeing it. Eventually, though, I think Susie does go, like, off, like, forward on her own. And Rousey's like, oh, wait! And by the time we finally catch up to Susie breaks it with her hand, and Rousey's like, Susie, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to see that. Now, obviously, we don't know what it is because we didn't get to see it. But Susie's like, like, you're not gonna let this happen, right? Like, we're not letting this happen. No way this is gonna happen, you know? Like, yeah. Rousey's like, Susie, I'm so sorry. Like, we're not letting this happen, you know? Yeah. So obviously it affects Susie in a way, because obviously, and again, it must be like very bad. Again, obviously the main theory is that it involves someone dying. That's the only thing that obviously I would think of anyway, because if it was that bad that Susie broke it so that we wouldn't see it and Rousey didn't want us to see it, it must be something really bad. And again, I would say really bad being that everyone dies. Or maybe the whole town gets destroyed. I don't fucking know. But yeah. But yeah, that thing happens. So then the chapter kind of ends in a morbid type of way. Because, you know, after we get home and then Toriel and Sans are like dancing or whatever. And then Toriel asks Susie if she wants to sleep over again. And Susie's like, oh, no, like I gotta go home. Chris, I'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, Susie leaves and obviously is very like, obviously she seems very troubled by what she learned. Because, you know, obviously. And then obviously the chapter ends like after, you know, Chris takes his soul out and goes to do some shenanigans or whatever. But then in this chapter, it seems like she's cool. She's good. Like whatever she learned yesterday is no longer weighing on her mind, because, you know, and again, a lot of people could, you know, you couldn't make the case that, oh, maybe she's just trying to, like, she's in denial, like she doesn't want to accept that, like she's just, you know, not even going to think about it, not going to bring it up, you know, that type of thing. Which, yeah, you could say that, but at the same time, it's like, Susie, that was literally a day ago. I know for us, the player, it's been a year, but, yeah, no, for you, that was a day ago, bro. It was literally yesterday. And again, she's acting nonchalant like nothing ever happened. I'm like, okay. Again, you can make the argument that, oh, again, maybe she's in denial or whatever, and you can make that argument, but it is kind of weird that it doesn't get brought up again this chapter, like, but that, I guess that would be my only, like, story gripe about this chapter, would be the fact that Susie kind of acting like, you know, yeah, we didn't just learn about something horrible in the prophecy last chapter, but, you know, whatever. That would be my only gripe with it that I did agree with on Twitter. Gameplay. Let's get to that. Well, you know, we'll get to the ending story beats. So gameplay-wise, obviously it plays the same. Obviously we do get some new stuff. Like, we get, like, this feather where, like, now we're, like, I don't know how to describe the gameplay. Like, platforming kind of ish, kind of, yeah, you know. We get kind of, like, platformer gameplay, and we gotta, like, you know, use different buttons to act and schmiz, you know, like, yeah, it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed that part of the gameplay. Obviously, it did get a bit frustrating because, you know, I do suck ass, especially when it comes to platforming, so there were times I was falling or getting hit, and I'm like, fuck! But otherwise, I had fun with that part of the gameplay. The gameplay was super fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, when it actually came to the battles, this is a different story. So, obviously, the battle mechanic is pretty much the same as it has been the past few chapters. But, there were some parts where I was dying a lot. Like, I would get hit 3 times and then, done. Game over. And I was like, there's this one, like, the first fight against, Aqua. Y'all, I was out here thinking that was the secret boss. I was sitting there like, is this like the secret boss? I didn't know if I was going in the right direction or not, because I like to obviously explore and see what I can find, you know, before I progress with, you know, the chapter. But again, in this game, it's not always 100% clear whether or not you're going the right way. So I was like sitting there for like the longest, like I kept dying, and I'm like, is this the secret boss? Or, spoiler, obviously it wasn't the secret boss, which I granted, I didn't go for the secret boss. I normally never do when it comes to these games. You know, it depends, obviously, but with Deltarune, I've seen the secret bosses. I'm good, especially since, again, I'm a pacifist. So even more so, no. No! But yeah, I've seen the secret boss. Yeah. No. But besides that, yeah, the gameplay, like, a lot of people have also been saying about it, so it's not just me, but again, it's also like a little 50-50. Some people are like, I don't see why people are saying that this was so hard. Like, it wasn't that bad. And then there's the other half where it's like, what the fuck is with this difficulty spike, bro? So for me, obviously, I am in the difficulty spike category, because, like, what the fuck? And again, granted, I'm not great at dodging in games. In general, I'm not great at dodging, as y'all have seen from previous playthroughs. I'm not great at dodging. It's hard for me, personally. And again, I am a pacifist, so I'm not killing anyone. I'm just trying to, like, do enough schmiz mercy until I can spare them. But yeah, it's really hard, bro. It got hard, and I wouldn't say it ruined the enjoyment for me. Maybe like a little bit. Like, because I can still say the chapter was fun, but God, was this chapter beating my ass. Because, oh my God! Again, during that fight, I'm trying to think what other fights. Like, there were obviously sometimes where I would go against an enemy and I would, like, not have a lot of health when I go into the fight. So then, obviously, one hit, bam, I'm done. But yeah. Obviously, though, for the most part, I would say it was smooth sailing, but there were those fights where I was like, oh my God. So, there was that fight against Aqua. I think later when I had to fight Aqua and Seth together, also got a bit frustrating. Especially like the ones like where like it was like the platformer gameplay where I had to fight them. It wasn't as bad, but there was like certain things. And then Orange and Green, that boss fight. That boss fight, man. Because like the thing is, obviously, like, Orange is throwing like little fists at you, so you have to dodge the fists. But then Green is also like putting out food that you have to catch, so Orange doesn't get it, so that Orange doesn't get more powerful. But another thing too is because of the fact that you're catching Green's food, it causes you to like not be able to stop moving. So you go like a little faster than normal. So then it gets harder to dodge the attack. It gets harder to grab the food so that the Orange doesn't get it, and then eventually Orange ends up powering up anyway. So that was a thing. Again, interesting gameplay mechanics, but oh my God, do they make this like so much harder for you, the player. So I did die a few times during that fight, and hilariously enough, if you go back to the video during that fight scene, there's like when we finally like get enough mercy, and Rousey's like, you know, I think we've been getting off on the wrong foot. You know, I think Green would want us to get along. And then Orange is like, I mean, if that's what Green wants. And they were like, yeah. And then Rousey's trying to do Rousey things and be super nice and schmiz. And be like, okay, so you know what we'll do? We'll wear these cute little mouse costumes. And then we get little mouse costumes. And so that you won't feel out of place. And then Susie goes and throws off the ears, and she's like, hey, like, can we like do this a different way, like just beat them up? And Orange is like, are you trying to imply that you can beat me up? And then Susie's like, yeah, it's just kind of obvious. And then Orange is like, that's bullying. And then and again, it seemed like the fight was about to be over, and then it goes right back to the fight. And during that part, granted, I was barely getting by, and my HP wasn't too high during that part. And I was so pissed, because I was like, Susie, what the fuck, bro? Why would you do that? Now, my HP's already low as is, and homie's about to, like, unleash his ultimate attack. and I'm probably gonna die. Now, surprisingly, I actually didn't die. I got very close, though. I actually managed to dodge fairly well enough to end the fight. Because after that attack, the fight ends, which is great. But oh my god, bro. When I tell you that part pissed me off, I was like, ain't no way, Susie. You just made me have to fight more when I'm already struggling as is. That was, I would say, like, funny and also frustrating. Because I'm like, bruh, what the fuck? But yeah. I did struggle for that fight. And the fight with blue and yellow. So during that fight, obviously blue and yellow are attacking together. Like, yellow will be shooting bullets at you while, blue is like doing all these other, again, watch the video or watch a boss fight video of it. But yeah, they basically, obviously, they have synchronized attacks. So obviously, as is with all the other flower combinations. But yeah, and then you have to get like 100% TP in order to do a triumph. Because yellow is all about justice. So you have to do a trial. And it's a different case each time that you gotta do. I think you have to do it like 3-4 times before it ends the fight. And obviously, you know, I don't play Phoenix right. Oh, Ace Attorney, whatever the game's called. You catch my drift though. I don't play those type of games, so I'm not really great when it comes to figuring out who's the culprit and what evidence goes with the culprit. So I got it wrong a couple times, and because the fight continues, they keep they keep hitting you. If you get it wrong, I mean, granted, if you get it right, you still continue on with the fight. But yeah, so I failed a couple times and then died, obviously. And then when you die, you obviously gotta start the fight over and then start from trial number 1. So I got it wrong a couple times, obviously, and then died a couple times, obviously. And then eventually, obviously, I did get through the fight. But oh my god. Especially, again, someone who don't always... When it comes to puzzles and schmiz, I am the worst person. Like, if we were in an escape room together, I'm letting y'all know, unless you can figure out the puzzles, we're not escaping. Because I suck ass at puzzles, bro. I'm not good when it comes to puzzles. I'm not great. So especially put me in the situation where I have to figure out who did the crime and what evidence goes with the crime of the person. Yeah, no, we're screwed, dog. We're losing. Like, you know, like if I'm your lawyer, you about to get life with no parole. Cause no. So yeah. Again, it's a little fun gameplay can't be saying that word. It was a fun gameplay mechanic, but oh my god, especially again with the damage that they do and the limited room you have to dodge, it's like, fuck! But otherwise, it's funny. It's funny and fun. But it's just, again, as someone who sucks at the game, and again, I would be equipping armor throughout the game too, but I'd still be dying. Like, and like that's one of the things I was like, oh yeah, just why don't you guys go into the equipment menu and see what armor you can do? And I was doing that, bro. I was doing that. I was equipping new armor that raised whoever's defense, because defense was the only thing I really cared about. Because, you know, I don't care about attack because I'm not attacking anybody. But yeah, and then again, as you progress, like as you get closer to Asgore, because obviously their main goal is that they don't want you to get to Asgore because of the fact that, you know, because our goal is to seal the fountain. Another thing too about this story is that, like, and again, granted, had I not been struggling so much during the fights with these damn flowers, maybe I would have felt more sympathy and empathy towards them. But because of the fact that I was actually goddamn struggling each time I had to fight one of them, I didn't really care what happened to them. But again, granted, had it been a bit of a smoother sailing ride for me, I probably would have cared, but I really didn't. But yeah. But basically, they're basically trying to prevent you from stealing. They're trying to prevent you from sealing the Dark Fountain because of the fact that they want Asgore to be happy, and Asgore takes care of the flowers, them. So they're like, oh yeah, we want Asgore to be able to be happy, because in real life he's not happy. His family doesn't really care for him. Everyone blames him for whatever, and he's kind of like ostracized by everyone. So like, we want to have him be here in this reality where he is loved and appreciated and cared for, and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, Asgore is trying to find proof for the Dark World, which we mentioned earlier, and whatever. So Asgore's more focused on that, and obviously the flowers are trying to like cheer him up and schmiz, but he's more focused on that, and whatever. So, oh, my neck. So again, obviously the flowers, their main priority is keeping us from reaching Asgore and sealing the fountain. There's at one point where we finally do reach Asgore, and Asgore's like, what are you guys doing here? And he kicks us out of the Dark World, and he's like, don't come back. And we're like, what? And again, that was a very interesting story beat there. Like, oh, Asgore, again, he knows what's going on. He knows where he is. And again, he saw us, which is something that happens before. Because the only besides Noelle and Birdley, which again, that was a whole, like, they did see us, but like, again, they thought it was a dream after the fact. So I don't think, it doesn't really count. And Undyne, we see her for like maybe like 5 seconds before she gets taken by the night. There's a one where like they know what's going on, they know that we're here, and then they proceed to kick us out and tell us not to come back. But obviously we go back in because we find another door into the Dark World. And then obviously again, our goal is to try and reach Asgore and seal the fountain. So again, as you progress, a lot of stuff happened. And again, the music too was also really good in this chapter. Granted, Toby Fox be killing it with the soundtrack for these games. But again, I liked how we pretty much got like a new rendition of Fields of Hopes and Dreams or whatever from the first chapter. It's pretty funny, and it sounds fire. And again, the battle music too is also revamped, and there's other tracks as well. Like, even though, and we'll get to it, I hated the final boss of this shit, the music's pretty fire. I can still out, like, after like the fact, like today, like when I was driving to work and like in the car, I was listening to it and I'm like, this shit good. Like, even though like it reminds me of like the fucking the goddamn frustration I was dealing with during the fight, I still like it. Like, the music's good. And some people were saying too, like, well, yeah, the soundtrack wasn't really that good for this one. Like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Were y'all, like, listening to other music while doing this chapter or putting the chapter on mute? Because I don't know what y'all are talking about saying the music for this chapter wasn't good. Because the fuck you talking about, dog? Anyway, I digress. So yeah. Eventually, we get to we reach the final confrontation with Flowery. And Flowery's pretty much like oh, you know, because another thing we learn too is because usually after each chapter, anybody that, like, from, like, for example, Queen, which was the antagonist for chapter 2, and Tenna, but I don't have Tenna in my Dark World because I gave him away. But yeah, but pretty much with, like, each, because, you know, you can recruit people, like, enemies and schmiz, and they end up going to your castle town and living there. And that's usually the case with each chapter that we do. We find out that with the flowers, we're not going to be able to have them in our castle town because of the fact that, again, they're flowers. They're not darkeners, they're not lighteners. They're just flowers that just so happen to get, like, an existence within the Dark World. So once we seal this fountain, that's it. We're not seeing them again. Like, that's it. That's it for them. Which is sad. And again, had I not been struggling the entire chapter, I would have felt for them. But because of the fact that this chapter was pissing me off, and I was struggling so much fighting each of these damn flowers, I didn't really care. And again, granted, I'm pretty sure if you're watching a playthrough of it, you'll feel for them. But again, because I was physically playing the game myself and struggling, I didn't really feel bad. But anyway, so we come to learn that. So obviously Flowery, like near the end, is like, oh, you would really like make us cease to exist just to seal the fountain. And then obviously they make the point, like Rousey makes the point too, like, oh, two fountains, you know, they're dangerous to exist because, you know, people will get hurt and blah blah blah. And so Flowery is like, oh, you know, here's a solution. Why don't you just get rid of yours then and let us keep ours? Which, you know, obviously, which ours is the castle town in the school. And obviously, you know, they're very hesitant to do so because obviously. And they're like, oh, so you're so selfish. You would rather, so you're saying yours is more important than ours? Which is a very, like, interesting thing to bring into this. You know, like, the whole, like, you know, I would guess, like, save the lives of one over saving the lives of many kind of scenario, I guess. But, like, obviously not 100%. But y'all catch my drift of what I'm trying to say here. Like, obviously, like, realistically, like, again, if you were to, like, put me in the scenario of, would you rather save the lives of this whole town or save your family? Like, obviously, like, I'm gonna be more biased towards saving my family, but, you know, that is what it is, you know. But yeah, so you get into all that, and then Rousey again is like, again, getting super pissed with Flowery, and is like, you know, yeah, like, whatever, not whatever, but, you know, that whole confrontation that I mentioned earlier. And he's like, oh, don't you think, like, if I could, I would be more loose and carefree, but I can't afford to be because of everything that's going to happen and blah, 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 and all that schmitz. And then we get into the fight. This fight was hard as shit. So, pretty much the fight consists of, Flowery is obviously the main one that we have to deal with, but Flowery is also gets assisted by each of the other 6 flowers. Aqua and Seth, then it's orange, no, yes, then it's orange and green, and then blue and yellow, and then just Flowery. Getting there, oh my god. So they introduced another new mechanic where your heart turns orange and you have like a dash ability. So with the dash ability, you have to press like the A. Either you could continuously repeatedly press A, or you can charge, like hold A, charge it, basically A for me because, you know, I was playing on a Switch, but or hold A and then release it to dash, whatever. Basically, yeah. And whenever you're going against, well, that's the mechanic for the whole fight in each iteration with the different flowers too. So it's all about timing. Now, as y'all know, I suck at timing and I suck at dodging. And guess what? The fight involves both. You have to dodge and time, and it depends on the iteration of flowers that you're dealing with. So with Seth and Aqua and Flowery, there's like different things. Like with Aqua, you'll have to like time, like going on a lily pad, and you have to, like, the lily pads obviously they change position each time you jump. So you have to not only try to time to get on the lily pad, but also move and try to accurately land on the lily pad so that you don't get hit by whatever the knives that are in front of the damn lily pads. Flowery also has this move where he like comes to like kick you, and you have to like time it correctly in order to bounce him back, and it keeps going. And then with Seth, he has like the thing where, like, I don't know how to describe it well, where like pretty much like you have like you're going super fast, but then you have the sections where like it lets you slow down to try to find, like, cause there are like little words coming in your way. And obviously there's like the green one, that's the good, and like it gives you TP. But you have to time it. Try not to hit the words that will hurt you, and then you don't have to aim for the green one, but you can if you want to. But pretty much, yeah, and that keeps going. right? That was already hard as is. And again, I suck ass at this fight, so yeah. And again, there are times where it's like it's multiple things in your way, so it's like, you know. And there's also like this part with like bamboo, where like there's like this thing of thorns coming for you, and you have to like try to dash, but like the white bamboo can hurt you and you can't dash through it, and the blue bamboo can still hurt you, but if you dash through it, you're good. Now the problem is with that is that dashing through the blue bamboo, there are white bamboo still coming in your way. And keep in mind, I am dashing, so I don't really have like I'm not out here like using like time stop or whatever, or using stopra, or you know, basically, you know, them type of moves where like you can slow down time, you know, that type of thing. I don't got anything like that, unfortunately, nor with my abilities in real life, because you're telling me I have to dash through this blue bamboo, but then also watch out for the white bamboo. And again, it's very hard to you know, dodge, because you know, it's just really hard, bro. Like, maybe to like expert gamers out there, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I saw something like, well, like, yeah, I only died 2 times during this fight, and then it was an easy breeze for me. And I'm like, that's great. I'm glad for you that this fight wasn't as much of a goddamn frustration as it was for me. And again, I did eventually beat it though, thank God, because the only downside is I was stuck on that fight for 3 hours. 3 hours I was stuck on that damn fight, bro. And again, granted, I did see a lot of people on Twitter being like, that fight was hard as shit. So I'm like, okay, at least it's not just me. Like, it's not just because I'm bad, you know. Other people struggle too, so, you know, it's not just me. But yeah. And again, with green and orange, it's pretty much kind of is the same thing as before, except, you know, again, you're the orange heart with the dashing, and both of them are coming at you, flowery and orange. And then there's ones where they psych you out. They're like, psych, and then they don't do it. And then green is like putting out a whole bunch of food. There's like the good ones and the bad ones, and then also flowery and orange are both coming at you at the same time. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then blue and yellow, yeah, that's pretty much, oh, I'm playing. It's again pretty much the same mechanic as it was when you fought them the first time. And then eventually you gotta keep, at least acting wise, because again, I don't fight. Acting wise, obviously you got to get enough to where, you know, you have them get out of here. And at one point too, you got to do like a kind of, it's like a trial again, but where Rousey's like, oh, you put them in jail at the like near like when they came back, even though they were guilty of nothing. And then Flowery's like, oh, they took the feather that wasn't theirs to take. And then Rousey's like, oh, but it was a gift from Aqua, and then, but it wasn't hers to give, or theirs. I don't remember what gender Aqua was. I don't remember. But yeah. And then Rousey's like, so technically they should be, you know, brought to justice. But then Rousey's like, oh, it was me. It was all me. So then Rousey gets taken out of your party after that. And then again, you got to continue the fight without Rousey now. So like. And again, another thing too, when you die, because you don't technically die, you get pushed back to where you were before when the fight started. And at first too, when you keep dying or losing, if you want to get technical, Flowery like pretty much like starts like saying something. It's kind of like when, you know, like kind of like in Undertale, like when you died against Sans all those times. And Sans would be like, oh, like he'd always say something after, like before you started the fight again. But pretty much it was like, obviously, it was after you lost the fight. Like, Flowery would say something. So that also very much irked me and made me also start to not like Flowery. So, after that, I keep going like towards the mic, like it actually does something, but it doesn't. But anyway. So, obviously, after you keep losing a couple times, Flowery doesn't say anything to you anymore. And that's how I knew that I was, like, again, this fight did take me 3 hours to beat. So, yeah, that's how you know, like, it started getting bad. Because Flowery wasn't saying anything anymore. And also, when you lose the fight, you gotta start from square one. So you gotta go through Flowery, and then with Seth and Aqua, and then with orange and green, and then with blue and yellow. Each time you lose, you have to start over. So you can imagine, I wasn't having the best of times during this fight. And again, during the stream, you can see I start to get super annoyed. Like literally, because again, I started streaming at 11 a.m. and I didn't finish till 8. I hadn't eaten that entire day. I had not eaten that entire stream. Literally during the stream, like while I was fighting Flowery, I ordered food. And I was like, let's see if I can beat the fight before the food comes. Spoiler alert, I did not beat the fight before the food came. So, yeah, I had to go grab my food after, like, during, like, one of the pauses of the fight. And, yeah. Granted, maybe it's my fault because I decided to go through this venture on an empty stomach. But, oh my God. So, eventually, I did make it to the end of the fight. Thank God. Basically, like, there's like this one part where Susie has an idea, and like Susie throws you up and you gotta start climbing. Flowery starts coming after you, and when I tell y'all, I got so lucky, and I was stressed. Because during the climbing segment, at one point I did get down to 1 HP during like the climbing segment. And bro, you don't know how scared I was. I was like, bro, please don't let me die during this. Because if I die, I have to start the entire fight over. So I did manage to make it. I climbed up the thing, or whatever, the little beanstalk that fucking Flowery had. And then you make it up to the kind of ish, like, I guess, near the fountain. And Flowery's like, oh yeah, you know, you can't beat us, Chris, because I have the power of friendship on my side. And it's like, of course, the power of friendship being used against me. So you go into one of the fight segments, but in the platformer segment, I would just call it the platformer segment, where obviously you do have to attack, but obviously it's not like a they're not gonna die type of thing. It's like it's an attack where I don't gotta worry about anybody dying. So you have to like keep going. You gotta either sometimes Flower will come at you like on your level where you can hit him, or where you have to jump and hit him. I didn't 100% get that at first, so I did like lose a bit of HP. And your boy was fucking scared that I was gonna die during that segment and then have to start the fight over, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't gonna be forgiving. I'm pretty sure that if I had died there, I was gonna have to start over from the start. So yeah, your boy, again, we cut it close. I did manage to beat him, thank God, because y'all, yeah, that fight really took one out of me. And again, granted, I don't remember if I struggled that hard with the Titan fight in the previous chapter, but God damn, that Flowery fight took it out of me, bro. But yeah, so you beat Flowery, and then Asgore comes and he's like, because you're kind of like on the ground, like fainted or whatever, and Flowery is like, oh, you can't do, I can't believe I hesitated, like, come on, can't let you get to the fountain or whatever, get up. And then Asgore comes in, Chris, oh my God, Chris, what happened? And then obviously that's when like the whole thing happens where he's like, I'm sorry, I got carried away trying to prove that this was real because of that event that happened, blah 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 blah. And then, you know, I already discussed it earlier, but yeah. So then whatever, and he's like, you know, I should really try to like live in the present type of thing, like be there for you and Azrael, like, hey, whenever Azrael comes to visit from college, I would love to see you two again. If your mom doesn't want to be there, I totally understand. You know, he pretty much like accepts that, like, he kind of let himself get self-obsessed with this thing, even though again no one was blaming him for what happened. And yeah, So then he's like, yeah, let's just go seal the fountain. And then Flowery is like, but Asgore, you know, we can make you happy if you just stay here. And then Asgore's like, as much as like I appreciate you guys, this isn't reality, you know, I have to live in reality, and blah 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 blah. So then we go seal the fountain. We say goodbye to all the flowers. They're like, oh, basically they each say their own thing, like, thank you for watching my dream or whatever, and they turn back into flowers. And again, the scene I say it in the stream, but the stream probably would have been more impactful had I not been just struggling during that goddamn fight with Flowery and them. So maybe the scene would have been a little more, like, I would have felt a little bad for him. But again, I keep repeating it, but like, again, had I not just been struggling, I probably would have been a little bad. But anyway, we go to seal the fountain, but when we seal it, nothing happens. Sue's like, wait, why are we all still here, like in the dark world? Because usually when we seal a fountain, we go back to the light world. Nothing happens, and we're like, wait, what? And then Rousey's like, oh no. I'm like, and I was sitting there like, what does that mean? And then Flowery is like, oh, someone opened a second fountain? And after he says that, night comes in and takes Asgore. When I tell y'all, during that scene, I was so, like, flabbergasted. I was like, so you're telling me we went through all of that just, like, trying to prevent Asgore from being taken by the night for him to get taken anyway? Now, granted, Flowery does go after them and tries to save Asgore, and he tries to fight the knight. Doesn't end well for him. He ends up getting sliced in half, and Asgore gets taken. So, thanks for nothing, Flowery. Not only am I annoyed about... So you managed to give me a tough-ass time during that boss fight, but you couldn't do the same for Knight? Crazy. So then there's an emotional moment with Flowery where he's dying or whatever. And they're like, oh no, Flowery, oh my god. And again, granted, if I hadn't just been during that fucking boss fight, maybe I would have felt bad. But I had no emotion during that scene. I didn't. Like, there was nothing for me. I'm like, oh no, he's dead. What a bummer. But yeah, again, it probably would have been much more impactful had I not played the game. If I would have watched a playthrough of it, maybe I would have felt something. But again, I played it. And I fought him. And I sat there for 3 hours fighting him. So yeah, whatever. So we go to seal the fountain for real this time. Obviously kind of melancholy. We seal it, and then Susie's like, damn, Asgore got taken. How many more people is this night gonna take? And then Susie asks us to walk her home. And, yeah. And, like, it was funny because during this segment, I'm kind of like, Susie, I don't know where the fuck you live. Like, I have never been to your house. But I assumed... I obviously, I just went to the school because I'm like, usually that's because we're not going to my house. So maybe the school. And I was joking around like, okay, maybe Susie is homeless or whatever. I don't know. We get to the school. We get to the closet. And then basically Susie's like, you know, I really like our adventures. It's usually like a you and me type of thing. Like it's our thing, you know. But with how serious everything is getting, we can't just keep this to ourselves anymore. It can't be just us. We have to, like, tell people. And then she brings up, like, oh, we gotta bring in Noelle. Which, I don't know why of all people she chose Noelle. Like, obviously maybe it's because, you know, yeah, she has feelings for her. But, yeah. But obviously we can't really call on Dine because, you know, Dine got taken. But, yeah. And Susie goes in the closet and she's like, thanks for walking me home. And she closes the door. And we're like, what? And the chapter ends. And again, during my stream, I was like, what? Like, I was so taken aback because it never occurred to me. Like, obviously, like, the way Susie acted in chapter 1 kind of gave, like, maybe she has, like, a rough home life. And she does mention, like, your mom's a good person. I wouldn't want to make her have to bury a child, you know, stuff like that. You know, you have it good. So, like, obviously, there was always, like, the kind of-ish implication that maybe Susie doesn't have a good home life. But for them to be like, oh, yeah, she lives in the closet at school, I was like, huh? And there's, like, an after-credit scene, technically, if you want to get technical, where Susie's setting up for Noelle to go to the castle town. Like, she puts, like, a little banner and makes her a room. And then you see Susie in her bed sleeping. And Rousey brings a little pie for her. And then Chris walks away. And that's how the chapter ends. Yeah, like I said, I was flabbergasted and confused at the same time. Because I'm like, huh? Again, I don't see why people were saying that the chapter wasn't good story-wise, because personally I think it did well. There are little things, like, again, I will say too, like, I would say one of my main gripes, kind of-ish, is that, again, you're telling me I went through this whole chapter trying to get Asgore to leave, like, prevent him from being taken by the night, and then he gets taken anyway. So pretty much everything I did was for naught, because it didn't matter, because he ended up getting taken anyway. So everything I went through, that stupid ass flowery boss fight I did, was for nothing. And then too, like, another thing too, that in previous chapters, we're trying to get the code for, like, the shelter, because that's where Undyne got taken. And again, Chris and Carol have, like, this kind of scheme going. Again, this is why personally I believe that she is the knight. But basically, we find the code, I believe. Like, we're about to, like, say, like, the words, and I think Chris, like, obviously without the soul, gets in the way and prevents us, or prevents Susie from finding it, I believe. Something like that. Something around that. I don't remember the exact specifics of it. But yeah, we find, like, a code, but Chris does not let us find it, pretty much, you know? And then in this chapter, like, when we come back to the light world after sealing the fountain, there's a paper on the ground, because Susie's like, oh, Flowery, I'm gonna go get something, I'll be back, like, because the flowers on the floor obviously ripped. But, like, there's a paper from, like, the broken vase, like, oh, there's some seeds here, and there's a paper that says shelter code, and Chris is about to tear it, but then Susie comes in, and is like, oh, what do you got there? And then has it now. So, yeah, I don't know why Chris is trying to prevent us from going into the shelter. Again, we'll get those answers eventually. But yeah, Chris is a very, like, anti-shelter. Homie does not want to go in there. Or nor does he want Susie. I keep saying he, my bad. Nor do they want Susie to find the code for it. But yeah. Those are, like, a lot of my thoughts. I've been wanting to get out there because I've just been scrolling on Twitter for the longest. This was the secret boss, which, again, doesn't really concern me too much because I'm not gonna go fight that shit. You got me fucked up. No. But it's basically goodness. But basically, the secret boss is, I don't know if y'all ever played, like, the Switch version of Undertale. I never did. I never got it on Switch. Again, I played it on my laptop and that was it. But there was, like, a secret boss in it was exclusive to the Switch version of Undertale, which was like Mew Mew, which is like this anime schmiz that Alphys likes. But yeah, Mew Mew has come back. Mew Mew is the secret boss for chapter 5. And I've seen people talk about how hard as shit the fight is. I watched a video of it. Yeah, no. I'm good. I was already struggling for the flowery boss fight. You got me fucked if you think I'm doing that. But you also have to like get like some pink coins and like buy a mystery key or whatever in order to be able to unlock the secret boss. So I ain't doing all that. I got a few of the pink coins, but there were obviously like some platforming segments that involved me to try to go get those pink coins, and yeah. I think you need like 12, if I'm remembering correctly. You need 12 pink coins in order to be able to buy the mystery key for the secret boss. But again, I ain't doing that. But yeah, but the music for the boss is super fire. Like literally, I think it kind of has like some Vocaloid inspiration to it. A lot of people were like, Hatsune Miku! It's not Hatsune Miku. At least not that I saw, because on Spotify, it says Toby Fox and someone else. But it says like Carmelia. Don't quote me on it. I'm bad at names, but if you look up the song and you see like the artists that are on it, it says somebody else. It's not Hatsune Miku. Unless it's Hatsune Miku's secret name, I don't know, but it sounds like Hatsune Miku, like it gives Hatsune Miku vibes. But yeah, but the song's pretty good. I like the song. But yeah. Hilariously enough though, which I've been seeing on Twitter, is that they released a patch, so now the flowery boss fight gets easier every time you lose. So, don't mean to flex, don't mean to brag, but I beat Flowery before the patch. Okay? Just putting that out there. It's kind of like with Sonic Frontiers, the Final Horizon. Now, granted, I did beat those Titan bullshit on easy, but at the time before the patch, easy made it like slightly easier. Not too much, but slightly. And I beat that before the patch too, so fuck y'all. I'm kidding. But yeah, that was super funny that they released a patch to make the fight easier. And again, if a patch had to be released for the fight to be easier after every time you lose, it's not just me, alright? At least I can say that, and I can brag that I beat it before the patch, alright? But yeah, those are my thoughts and feelings and review on Chapter 5. I liked Chapter 5. I would give it an 8 out of 10. It would be a 10 if, again, those damn fights, bro. But besides that, I really like Chapter 5. I don't see why a lot of people are saying that it was kind of like a nothing chapter or whatever. And again, Toby Fox did say that this was going to be like a chill, like one last adventure before we get into the more serious stuff that's going to be happening in 6 and 7. Which I think 6 is going to have to deal with, like, Noel's dad. Because, again, they did mention that he fell down. Now, a lot of people are like, does that mean he died or that he fell off the ladder? Because if you guys don't know, in Undertale terms, whenever they say a monster has fallen down, that means they died. So we're like, ooh, I don't know about that wording, bro. See, for me, when I was doing during the chapter, I thought that, oh, he fell down the ladder that he was on, or whatever. Because earlier in the chapter, when you go see him, he's up on a ladder putting up lights. So, automatically, I assume is that, oh, he fell off the ladder. Fell down the ladder. But now it's like, oh, did he die? Again, I'm hoping not. But at this point, again, if Toby was saying that this was like our last like chill, laid back adventure, you know, before all the serious stuff happens, that could be a bad indicator. That next chapter, again, I don't know if I mentioned it in the stream, but I'm like, if this chapter 6 opens up to a funeral, Especially the way that it ended, bro. It ends with Susie in the dark world and me leaving to go home. I pray to God that chapter 6 does not open up to a funeral. Because if I start up chapter 6 and I'm wearing black and getting ready to go to a funeral with Toriel, I'm gonna be like, no! I'm gonna be like, no! Not Rudy! Not Noelle's dad! No! But, again, who knows? Again, like I said, Toby did say this was like the last chapter before we get into the serious stuff, so who knows? And again, of that, yeah. Again, personally, I don't see what's wrong with chapter 5. There are obviously little bits, but again, they did patch the flowery boss fight. I don't know. Again, I didn't read all the patch notes. I just know that was the main thing because I saw like this funny thing on Twitter. It's like a bad, and it's like, I beat Flowery before the nerf, which I reposted on my Twitter because I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna flex that. I beat him before the nerf.
So yeah, fuck y'all who were saying, oh well, just get good.
I did get good. I beat the fight. Took me 3 hours, but I did it. But yeah, maybe, you know, with the nerf, because at the end of the stream I did say, like, I don't think I would ever replay chapter 5 because of the fact that fight was so hard. But now that there's a nerf, maybe I will replay chapter 5 one day. Not anytime soon, but maybe one day. If I ever decide to replay the game, which I don't think I will. I don't know. I am debating though, replaying chapters 1 through 4, like on the channel, just so that, again, granted, I already played chapter 5, but just so that anybody who's he's gonna have to wait. Just so that anybody who hasn't seen them or like wants to see like my playthrough of it, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts and feelings about chapter 5. I am excited for chapter 6, although it did get announced that chapter 6 isn't coming out till next year. Like, on the bright side, it's like, yay! We have a release date. Year, anyway. The downside is I was really hoping chapter 6 was going to come out later this year because of the fact that Toby was saying that development on chapter 6 was so easy, and that he was saying that, if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if some of my team starts working on chapter 7 before the end of the year. So I was thinking high hopes for, you know, chapter 6 coming out later this year and then chapter 7 coming out next year. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. It seems like chapter 7 is probably going to come out in 2028, but it is what it is, you know. I am excited to see, again, more for Deltarune, like I've said before previously and during my stream. But yeah, and I had fun with chapter 5. Even if you liked chapter 5 too, don't let anyone make you feel different, because I enjoyed it. Again, granted, the fights were not the most fun for me, but for the most part, I had fun during the chapter. It made me laugh. There were all the hilarious gags and schmiz, and I had a fun time. And I loved that we got Suzelle content, because fuck yeah. But other than that, if you guys stick to the round to the end of the review and thoughts and blah blah blah, I appreciate you. You're the best. But until then, guys, I will see you all in the next video, which is probably going to be my next playthrough, which is probably going to be next week, because I work the rest of this week, and you got me fucked up if you think I'm doing a stream after work. Unless I have enough energy, which I did today. So there goes the show. But anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye!